Hello, welcome to my IG and YouTube channel. Great to be with you once again. Um, I hope you have a beautiful week. I hope you enjoy this time. And here we are again on Saturday, 4 o'clock LA time. I will be doing this lives for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes every Saturday, probably for a few more Saturdays. We'll see. I am going through basically a program that I developed called the six pillars of health or perfect health, or actually the seven pillars of perfect health. Is evolving. It's a work that evolves, and I am working on areas in order to embrace this quarantine time, and also in order to improve our health. So we want to really work on these areas and understand how to be a little bit more connected and a little bit more in tune with ourselves. So today, the topic, as last week we were talking about self-awareness. Basically, I gave some introduction about the quarantine time, and then we were talking about self-awareness. We were exploring self-awareness. We did some exercises. Today, I would like to talk about food as medicine, because food can be seen as medicine or can be seen as poison. Food can be poison. So basically, I would like to see food from an Ayurvedic perspective, how Ayurveda see food, and basically see how food is basically energy and information. And I would like to share these ideas for you to understand a little bit more the perspective of Ayurveda. Next weekend, we are going to talk about stress management and emotional healing. And the weekend after, Saturday again, we are going to talk about exercise and sleeping pattern. So basically, these are going to be the 4 Saturdays that we are going to be together. And in the future, maybe we just keep going with these Saturdays meetings on IG and YouTube. So thank you so much for being here. Beautiful to be with you. As I go through, I would like to share first that Ayurveda sees this as energy and information, and seafood as energy and information. This is how Ayurveda sees it. Everything is energy and information. The difference in between a tree and me is basically information. As we know by the standard model of physics, everything in this cosmos is made of the same particle. If we go to a very atomic level, in the most refined level and an atomic level, basically the particles that are there are all the same. It's the Peter Higgs particle surrounded by these bosons, and then six leptons and six quarks. I think that that's exactly how basically works. But I am not a physicist, but this is kind of the standard model of physics, and we know that everything in this cosmos is that. For example, an electron, according to classic physics, an electron goes around the nucleus at the speed of light. This entire cosmos is expanding at about 50 miles per second. So these are informations that we know, that we can even Google and explore and read through books and through information that we can access these days, but we don't perceive them as truth within our system. Why? Because basically it's very difficult for us to understand this through the perception system that we have, which are the five senses. Can you imagine yourself that in 1 second you could be 50 miles away from here? Well, but that's the truth. This is how the planet Earth is expanding within the entire universe. But those, again, are things that we don't see. And then, therefore, it's very difficult for us to realize completely. The difference in between the DNA of a banana and mine is 50%. 50% of the banana DNA is exactly as the human DNA. 95% of the chimpanzees' DNA is exactly as the human DNA. That's why we look so similar, even though we don't like that similarity. But basically, everything is energy and information. And I like this, or I like to begin my talks about food through this Ayurvedic concept, because we have a very materialistic perspective of our bodies. But our body is the food that we put in. That's how our body is made of. So even it's a very commonplace, my body is all the food that I just put in during my life. So this is how it works. And if we can see the food that we put in as information, then we're going to really understand how the wisdom of Ayurveda can help us. So let's talk about energy. Let's talk about energy and the history of energy related to food. About 200,000 years ago, the Homo sapiens started evolving in the east of Africa. For about 100 years, that evolution stays at the same place. Homo sapiens try a few times to go to Europe. That movement, that migration failed. So for about 110,000 years, the Homo sapiens were on the east side of Africa. And there is not much information about that more than this. Now, about 90,000 years ago, there is a big change, which there are a few theories. I'm not going to go through that, but the cognitive process begins within the Homo sapiens in a completely different way. It was a quantum leap there. Nobody understands exactly how it worked, but related to what we are talking about, what happened at that particular moment is that the Homo sapiens, that for about 100,000 years before was at the middle level of the chain food, become the predator number one at the chain food on the planet. So this is a big change. And basically, from that moment on, the Homo sapiens start just migrating toward Asia, Europe, and then Australia, and then after America. So for about 60,000 years, yes, 60,000, that's some discrepancy in there, but it's about 60,000 to 70,000 years, the Homo sapiens was using food in order to go through, just to, get there and live their days. So they were just living for what they were recollecting from plants and how they were hunting animals. So that was the life of the Homo sapiens. But then about 10,000 years ago, something big happens, which is called the agricultural revolution. So at that moment, we start just getting steady in different places. We start just creating these agricultural farms. And then from that moment on, the Homo sapiens begin, which is called the building era. We start building stuff because we were just living in, places. And finally, those places start just evolving as cities. And then from that moment on, human beings start building all what we have and what we can see today. Now, why I bring this up? Because the energy that humans, Homo sapiens, use in order to build all what we know was done through food. So food was the energy for the muscle to build whatever was built through this time, from about 10,000 years ago to now. The entire Roman Empire was built on food, if you will. So from that moment on until 200 years ago, the only energy that humans were really using in order to build, it's not the only energy. There was some other type of energies. Slowly we evolved to that, but mostly the energy that really moved this entire planet and the building of this planet was food. But then about 200 years ago, the Industrial Revolution comes, and then the big change is that we start just using completely different type of energy in order to build, in order to produce, in order to create all what we create. That's the main change. So whoever would say 200 years ago that because the oil we would be having big wars and killing each other, that would be seen as awful. But this is what the Industrial Revolution brought, which is the use of completely different type of energies than food. Why I bring this up? Because this is how Ayurveda sees food. Ayurveda sees food as energy that we are just intaking in order to create the body we have. And understanding this, it can help us to really understand how food can be seen as medicine. According to Ayurveda, there are three forces that manifest to create this cosmos. These three forces are called prana, which is energy, jyoti, which is light, and prema, which is cohesion or love. So through these three forces, through the force of energy, through the force of light, through the force of cohesion or love, then this universe was manifest. These forces manifest in this universe through three elements. The elements are air, energy, fire, light, and water, cohesion, because this is what water does. So if we see this through the three elements, air, fire, and water, obviously this becomes like a fairy tale. But if we see it through the qualia of these elements, then things start getting much more interesting. Basically, what is the qualia of air? Well, the qualia of air is movement. Without movement, there is no life. So that's basically what qualia is, and what air is. And basically, fire is metabolism. What is metabolism? Well, metabolism is transformation. This is what fire does. Fire transforms. There is a big difference in between change and transformation. Makes sense? Change, I can put this in here, and then I put it in here, and then I change it back. So there is no problem in moving things around and change things around, and you can go back. Through transformation, you can do that. When something transforms, there is no comeback to the previous state. Very easy. Let's talk about the brownie. You just mix some eggs and water and chocolate. You put that on an oven, and then after a few minutes, what you have is a brownie. So if you open the brownie, you are not going to find the egg, you are not going to find the water, and you are not going to find the chocolate. I made in this app because I never cook a brownie, but I assume that that's the way that brownies are being cooked or being prepared. But the concept is very simple. Fire, what it does is to transform. And finally, water. What water does? Well, water puts things together. This is what water does. So the last thing that the Voyager did is this. Trip about through the cosmos was to take a picture of the planet Earth, and what we saw in that picture was a very teeny blue dot. And that's what water does. What water does basically is to put things together within the universe. So these are the three elements that transform, the three forces that transform into or manifest through three elements. And then what Ayurveda does is to use these three elements to create these three basic metabolic principles, which are called doshas. Dosha, the definition in our language of dosha could be seen as metabolic principle. What are doshas? Well, the dosha is the representation of the qualia of air, and it's called vata. The dosha is the representation of the quality of fire, and it's called pitta. The dosha is the representation of the quality of water, and it's called kapha. So these three energies are the energies that are the blueprint of our life. So when we are born with a combination of these three energies. That's how Ayurveda sees us. So that's why we can be tridoshic. It means that we have the three energies in the same balance, in the same amount. We can be bidoshic, which means that two of the doshas are more predominant than the other one. And then we can be just having one dosha predominant and the two others a little bit less than that. That's kind of sort of how the combinations are. In any case, what this means or what this represents? Well, basically, this represents the energies or the forces, that manifest in this planet, and how these forces are seen within a human being. Now, when we talk about food, Ayurveda basically what it's trying to do is to put together this information. What Ayurveda is trying to do when Ayurveda uses food in order to balance ourselves is basically to balance these three energies. Again, we all do have the three energies. We all do have these three doshas. We all do have air, fire, and water within as a building blocks of nature. But basically, because our blueprint, then, which is called Prakruti, then we have some sort of predominant energy within us. So some people is airy, some people is fiery, and some people is more earthy. And that's what in medicine is called biotypes. If you study medicine and you study and you explore semiology, basically they call them biotypes. In any case, what I am trying to put together when I talk about this is that is to switch within us the idea of food. Because again, we have this materialistic idea of our body, and then if we can see food as the information that we are intaking in order to balance these different energies that are part of our life, that are part of our expression in our as humans, then we can really use food as medicine. How Ayurveda understand the energy or the information of each food? Well, basically that's through the 6 tastes. So Ayurveda uses the flavors, the taste of the food as the information that they represent. So there are salty foods, there are sweet foods, there are sour foods, there are pungent, astringent, bitter, and astringent different taste. So this is how Ayurveda sees the information of the food. If you have a lot of vata within you, then you have a lot of earth within you. Then if you use some kapha foods information, then that will help to balance this your doshas. For example, sugar or salt or sour are considered kapha information, while pungent, astringent, and bitter are considered vata information, while sour, salty, and pungent are considered pitta information. So when an Ayurvedic physician is seeing you, what the Ayurvedic physician asks is not what is going on with you, is who are you? And then when the Ayurvedic physician can see your picture, then can work on the foods in order to balance those doshas, in order to balance these energies. There are many stages before disease is diagnosed that an Ayurvedic physician can see that these doshas start getting unbalanced, and then his try or she's try will be to balance those doshas. So this is how Ayurveda sees food and how Ayurveda work on food. And I hope this information can help you. Obviously, I can go deeper than this at this moment because we have just about 10 more minutes. I would like to give you some ideas on how to deal during this quarantine time about food, how to deal with food. But I think that it's important to understand how Ayurveda sees this, and for you to see how to approach food in a different disguise, from a different perspective. So the first thing that I recommend, I'm going to go through three basic pillars, Ayurvedic pillars for food. The first one is called portion control. So for an Ayurvedic point of view, the amount of food that we should put on each meal is no more than 2 feasts together. This is the amount of food that we want to put on each meal in our plate. This is super important because we are eliminating a lot of food through our elimination system. And then we are putting much more food that we really need. So becoming aware of the amount of food that you really want to put on your plate is crucial. Becoming aware of the amount of food that you want to eat every day is crucial. Again, most of us, we eat much more than we really need. Now, in a scale from 1 to 10, if when 1 is starving and 10 is full, then you want to stop when you are reaching 6 or 7. That's the moment in which you start saying, okay, this is enough for me. For people that live alone, this is very important. When at the time that you are cooking, the amount of food that you are cooking and the amount of food that you are going to put on your plate. I'm telling you this because sometimes we cook much more than we need, and then we are just kind of eating because we are I just already cooked this food and then I'm going to eat it. So be very cautious, be very conscious at the moment in which you are preparing the food and the amount of food that you are going to put on your plate. That's the first I would say tip, or I would say idea that I would like to explore. Portion control is crucial. The second tip or idea is basically food in form of liquid. Food in form of liquid is something that I recommend at least twice a week. So you want to do it usually at the dinner time. And basically any type of liquid instead of solid. It could be soup, it could be any type of fruit blends or whatever you want to eat. That's okay. But imagine this: if you are eating any solid, then you are going to spend much more time digesting the digestion time, much more time than when you eat liquid, when you just ingest liquid. If you eat a piece of meat like this, then your body is going to spend about 6 to 7 hours to digest it. If you eat a bowl of soup, then your body is spending about 25 minutes to digest this. Why this is important? Well, this is important because I am talking about basically a toxin, from a toxin perspective. We create a lot of toxins. We create a lot of toxins in our life as soon as we just go out there, when our bodies start creating toxins. That's why we pee, that's why we poo, that's why we sweat. So when we are eating, regardless what we are eating, we are going to create toxins. Again, if your body spends most of the digestion time trying to digest the food that you put in, more if you put a lot of food in your stomach, then your body doesn't have the necessary time to work on cleaning its own system. Now, when you use, let's say, 25 minutes just to digest the food, then you have a lot of time for the system to clean itself. And that's the main purpose of taking food in form of liquid. So you basically are going to do this once or twice a week. So you are giving yourself, your system, a huge break while you are not eating any solid. And finally, the third thing that I would recommend is basically fasting. Fasting can be seen through a religious perspective. This is not how I just see fasting. I'm not talking against any religion, of course. It's basically that the idea of fasting through the Ayurveda perspective is again about toxins. The problem with toxins is that toxins are fat soluble and water soluble. When you are just eating and you are creating toxins, if the toxins are fat soluble, water soluble, they have affinity to go to joints, to go to blood, to go to tissues, to go to muscle. If you are having toxins spread, if you are having an accumulation of toxins in your system. If your system is working fine, it's perfect, you don't have any problem. But if your system starts accumulating toxins, this accumulation starts spreading toward these areas. That's when we practice exercise, then it's easy for us to release these water-soluble toxins, because again, they go to joints, they go to blood, they go to tissue, they go to muscles, which are the areas that we are moving while we are practicing exercise. Now, in the other side, when you are just having fat-soluble toxins and there is accumulation of fat-soluble toxins, unfortunately, they are very, very, very difficult to release. And because they are very, very difficult to release and they spread the digestive system, then they have affinity for this nervous system, the central nervous system. These toxins go and stick in there. They're very, very difficult to release. That's why Ayurveda has this treatment, Pancha Karma. Pancha means 5, Karma means actions, 5 actions that help you to release mainly fat-soluble toxins, which are very difficult to release on its own. The body, it takes for the body a lot of time to release fat-soluble toxins. When you lose a lot of weight, then you release a lot of fat cells, and then you release a lot of fat-soluble toxins too. Now, the idea of fasting, in my case, I try to do it, let's say, like 4 times per year. That's how Ayurveda recommended. So usually when the season is changing, then you fast. You choose one day and you fast. This is the way that I recommend you fasting. You have a good breakfast. Then you have a good lunch. And after that, what you do is to avoid dinner. Now, when you avoid dinner, then you spend almost 18 hours until breakfast with your system empty. Now, from that moment, when you wake up, if it's very difficult for you to keep going, then you can have a light breakfast. But if you can just stretch it to lunchtime. And if you do that, then you spend 24 hours without any food within your body. And that's the way that I recommend fasting. You have to drink a lot of water every 2 hours, and I usually recommend to do this. You should connect with someone that really knows about this, and then you need to be somehow supervised. That's what I recommend. But if you're going to fast, this is how I recommend you to fast. You just take a good breakfast, you take a good lunch, and then you avoid dinner at night, and then you just, if you can, avoid breakfast the morning after, and then you spend 24 hours. If you cannot avoid breakfast, no worries, just go there, take some breakfast, but then still you spend 18 hours for the body to clean. It's a huge cleansing of your body. I usually use it also when I feel that my body is really stuck, when my system is stuck, when I feel stuck because maybe I spent 1 week in vacations and I ate more than I should, or or there is a holiday time and then we eat more or drink more than we should, and then we start feeling heavy and we start feeling that doesn't matter what we eat, our system doesn't work well. Then fasting is a great way to create again our system working in a good shape. So just to recap a little bit, 3 very important things: portion control, food in form of liquid, and fasting. These are the 3 things that I deeply recommend. If you're going to eat meat, don't eat meat at night if you can. So try to have always light dinners and try to eat before 8 o'clock. This is something that I need to accustom myself. I was born in South America, and it's difficult for us to have dinner that early. But the idea of this is that you are going to give your body a lot of hours within food, and that's with food inside, and that's very important. There are many ways to fast these days. It became mainstream. Many people, what they do is not to eat anything until night, and then they eat at night. I really do not recommend to do this type of things. Again, I really recommend you to be supervised if you're going to explore these different techniques, Ayurvedic techniques. I think that Ayurveda is a very actual information. I think that is becoming mainstream. Many people is getting into the Ayurveda practice because some point the information that Ayurveda is bringing us is very actual. It talks again in terms of energy and information. So think about food from now on as energy and information that you are just taking in order to heal your body, in order to balance your body. And please connect with me. I can guide you through the process in a more deeper way through Ayurvedic consultations. We need to understand what your Prakriti is. So what is that blueprint? What are the forces that are part of yourself? And after that, we need to know what is the state of all these forces at this moment. And then from there, we can have a picture of yourself, and we can give you some ideas and suggestions about what are the energies and the informations that you are going to take, or they are going to help you to balance those doshas. All right, so I'm not going to take more of your time. Thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate that you are present here, and I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about this, to spread this wisdom of Ayurveda, which is something that I love. So I'll see you next Saturday. Thank you so much. Namaste.